Hi. Official recaps here. Today, I'm going to explain a film called Big Brother. Before getting to the video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like to support the channel. Henry has returned to Hong Kong after years of service in the United States military. He returns to his former school, Tak Kai Secondary, to pursue a career as a teacher. The principal observes that he lacks teaching experience. He gets given the job after being presented a recommendation letter from a higher official. The principal advises Henry before he leaves that the class he is assigned to teach is the worst in the school. Henry arrives into his first day of school to find the classroom in complete disarray. Some kids are napping, some are singing, still others are playing video games, and still others are cooking ramen on a portable burner. Even after the teacher walks in, they completely ignore him and go about their business. Henry attempts to attract their attention, but they pretend not to hear him. He abandons his attempt to distract their attention, and walks around the classroom commenting on what they are currently doing. Students who are cooking are advised to consume less ramen due to its high sodium content. Henry then approaches a ukulele player named Zufa and assists him. Similarly, he tells a gamer youngster about the radiation he may be exposed to from looking at a screen all day. He introduces himself and writes his name and phone number on the board when the pupils eventually start listening to him. His handwriting is so bad that the students laugh. Then one of the students phones him and requests that he leave the class, but Henry laughs it off. The kids continue to ignore him and carry on with their activities before he arrives. Henry has had enough and uses a rubber band and chalk to activate the fire sprinkler in the room. The kids rapidly fan out in order to avoid getting soaked. He now has their entire attention and invites them to his class. After class, 5 of the lowest-ranking students congregate in the sports supplies room to smoke. The group's leader, Jack, has a crush on an A-grade kid from another class. The others make fun of him for looking at her photo. The club has a rivalry with the school's basketball team's rich and pampered students. They enter the supply room and, as usual, insult Jack for his poverty. Later, the basketball team is practicing while Jack and the others watch from a distance. When Jack drops a bottle on the court, the team captain falls. Miss Liang, the school's English instructor, gives the group detention despite their laughter. To avoid detention, they pull a trick on her and flee while she is cleaning her desk. In other news, the school's principal is upset because the education board intends to cut 20% of their annual funding. At the same time, Henry walks into the classroom, where classmates have set up a bucket of water to play a joke on him. However, his reflexes are faster than the falling bucket, allowing him to push it aside. The classmates who had planned to mock him are taken aback. Henry requests Jack's cigarette packet, knowing that he smokes. Jack simply hands him the pack, unsure what he is going to do. Then Henry asks Zufa to name the 3 components of a cigarette. When he correctly answers the question, he is allowed to skip class for the day. When they come to a halt, he hands each of them a cigarette and instructs them to examine it. Henry understands that if he just explains the effect it has on their health, people will dismiss it. Instead, he questions them about the consequences of smoking and explains how tar develops in their lungs. For the first time, they pay attention to the teacher and appear to be interested in what they are learning. He asks them to return the cigarettes after the bell sounds, and they hesitantly agree. The captain of the basketball team trips one of Jack's friends, Bruce, on his leg that day in the cafeteria. This sparks an argument between the groups, which quickly escalates into a brawl. They ruin the place by throwing food and tables at each other. Later, Henry learns that 5 of his classmates have been temporarily suspended for inciting the fight. Henry comes across Jack fighting his opponent in the corridor and intervenes. When prompted to calm down, Jack accuses the school of being unjust because the wealthy students are not punished. After school that day, Henry goes through the files of all 5 kids to learn more about them. The first is Zufa, the son of a Pakistani immigrant who is often discriminated against due to his race. The cops in his neighborhood frequently suspect him of stealing. Zufa's sole ambition in life is to become a musician. Dinan, the second student, is a young lady. She had been a disappointment to her father since her birth because he had always desired a son. Dinan has spent her entire life attempting to obtain her father's esteem. She also cut her hair short and pretended to be a guy by playing with vehicles. Her father, on the other hand, is unconcerned about her while treating her younger brother like a prince. Then there are the Bruce and Chris brothers. When they were little, their mother ran away with a man, turning their father becoming an alcoholic. Growing up, The brothers had only each other to rely on. To avoid reality, Bruce grew infatuated with video games, while Chris worked hard in a grocery shop to provide for the family. Finally, Henry can't locate any information on Jack's family history. In the following scene, we see Jack working as a server in a restaurant. Jianying, an MMA betting, comes at the restaurant with his business colleagues. When Jianying is not looking, Jack snatches his expensive lighter but gets apprehended. Jianying's guys beat him up while he checks Jack's identification. He gives him money and offers him a job as their food delivery man after discovering he is a student. Henry goes to Zufa's house and finds him fleeing from his father and his associates after stealing a ticket. He initially assists him, but after discovering why he is being pursued, he sides with his father. Then he and Zufa meet at the bridge to hang around. Henry performs in the streets with a band to urge Zufa to do whatever he wants. After being ridiculed at school for years, Zufa joins him and sings in front of people for the first time. Meanwhile, Bruce and Chris's father arrives home late as usual and requests that they get him a beer from the shop. He yells at the brothers to leave his house when they refuse. The next day, Henry talks with their father and persuades him to send his sons to rehab. Meanwhile, Denon's father offers her a bag of makeup and tells her to act like a girl for once. Denon is enraged at him for constantly making her feel inadequate. She dresses her younger brother in cosmetics and sneaks out of the house with the car key. She is ready to drive away in her father's automobile when she is abruptly stopped by Henry. He informs her that driving without a license is against the law and offers an option. They then proceed to a go-kart racetrack. Henry also invites her father and forces them to compete. During the race, the father and daughter show no mercy to each other and eventually end up outside the course. Denon's go-kart is suddenly attacked by a vehicle, but she manages to avoid it. Unaware of this, her father weeps over the death of his daughter. Denon realizes he loves her and gives him a hug. The next day at school, Bruce and Chris are taken to a rehabilitation clinic with a group to interview a recovering alcoholic. They are taken aback to learn that the person they must interview is their father. The kids inquire as to how he became a drinker. The man responds that he loved his wife sincerely, but she abandoned him when he was at his lowest point in life. As a result, he began to drink and forgot that he had 2 children to care for. The father apologizes to Bruce and Chris but does not divulge that they are his sons. By the end, the brothers are in tears. Jack has started working for MMA bettor Jianying somewhere else. He offers Jack a large sum of money to drug a fighter's drink in the following game. Jack is hesitant to accept the offer, but he is forced to. Jianying promotes a boxer but wagers money on his defeat on the day of the bout. Jack smuggles narcotics into the fighter's drink but gets apprehended while doing so. He is beaten up and put into a locker before he can blame Jianying. After a while, Henry enters and asks the fighters if they have seen his student. The men tell him to go home, but Jack cries for aid from within the locker. Henry fights them and easily overpowers them after discovering he is being held captive. When the fights step it up, things get a little heated, but Henry dodges their attacks with ease. By the end, he had knocked out their best fighter, who was scheduled to participate in just a few minutes. They are at the hospital in the following scene, where Henry is being treated for his injuries. Jack tries to disclose the truth about Jianying but is silenced. The story is broadcast on television, and Henry becomes recognized as the man who beat up a professional fighter to save his student. His popularity develops at school, and students begin to appreciate him. In contrast to how they were previously, they even get up to welcome him to the class. Starting that day, the pupils pay attention in class when Henry lectures and work hard to prepare for the approaching college admission exam. Except for Bruce, who has become hooked to medications, everyone is doing well. While Chris went to computer games to evade his family's difficulties, Bruce began using drugs. He performs poorly in the mock entrance exam due to his lack of focus. Henry offers to assist him, but Bruce's depression worsens over time. He eventually jumps off their house's balcony. He is taken to the hospital and placed in a coma. The media spins the story, blaming the school and Henry for what Bruce did. The school board authorities question Henry and decide to withdraw his teaching license. When he packs his belongings and leaves the school, the pupils follow him, pleading with him to stay. They are upset by his departure, but they know that they must succeed in their next exam in order to make Dad proud. They studied twice as hard after that to prove to the board that Henry is a competent teacher. On the day of the test, Henry texts Jack and his classmates, inviting them to gather in the school an hour before the exam. When the students assemble, they discover that Jianying's plan was to keep them locked in the school so they wouldn't make it to the examination hall on time. He's doing this in order to teach Henry a lesson. After a while, Henry comes at school and learns about Jianying's plan. He frees the students and fights all of Jianying's followers to prevent them from injuring the children. They flee and get to the test hall, where Henry is fighting Jianying. Jianying admits during their one-on-one combat that he was the guy Henry had thrown water balloons at when he was a kid. Henry was unable to compete in a major music competition after breaking his arm. He hasn't touched a piano since the incident and blames Henry for wrecking his goal. Henry attempts to negotiate with him but is attacked once more. They are attempting to obtain a knife. Finally, Henry is pursued to kill him but does not do so. He walks away, asking for pardon for what he did when he was younger. The pupils arrive at the examination venue on time and complete the test. They all pass with flying colors a few weeks later. Jianying begins to play the piano again, but he has a long way to go before he is as excellent as he once was. Bruce heals fast and promises to take the entrance exam the following year. The principal is also overjoyed since the board chooses to award them a 20% bonus cash because their kids performed exceptionally well in the admission exam. Henry returns to teaching and does the fire sprinkle trick on another batch of students. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.